The accusation. The grand ballroom shimmered under the golden glow of chandeliers, every crystal reflecting elegance and celebration. Guests dressed in luxurious gowns and tailored suits filled the room with soft laughter and clinking glasses. It was supposed to be a night of joy, a night to celebrate love, unity, and a new beginning. But in a single moment, everything changed. Is this some kind of joke? The man in the navy tuxedo said sharply, his voice cutting through the music like a blade. His finger pointed directly at the couple standing before him. The room fell silent. The pregnant woman in the emerald green dress instinctively placed a hand over her belly, her eyes steady but filled with a quiet storm. Beside her stood a man in a black suit, his posture calm yet protective, his arm wrapped gently around her as if shielding her from the tension now gripping the room. "This isn't what you think," the man in black said firmly, his voice low but controlled. "Oh, I think I know exactly what this is," the man in the tuxedo snapped back, his face flushed with anger. "You disappear for months, and suddenly you show up like this. Pregnant." His voice trembled, not just with rage, but with something deeper. Hurt. The woman beside him in the red dress tightened her grip on his arm, her eyes darting between the two sides, confusion and disbelief written all over her face. "Wait, someone explain what's going on," she whispered, though her voice carried in the heavy silence. The pregnant woman took a deep breath. "I didn't come here to cause a scene," she said softly, yet her voice held strength. "I came because the truth deserves to be heard." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Guests exchanged glances, whispers building like a rising tide. "The truth." The man in the tuxedo scoffed. "After everything, now you care about the truth." The man beside her stepped forward slightly. "Watch your tone," he warned, his calm demeanor beginning to crack. "You don't know the full story." "Then enlighten me," the tuxedoed man shot back. "Because from where I'm standing, it looks like betrayal." The word hung in the air like a thunderclap. The pregnant woman's eyes flickered with pain, but she didn't look away. "You left," she said quietly. "You walked away without listening, without trusting me. I trusted you more than anyone." He shouted, his voice echoing against the marble walls. "And this," he gestured toward her stomach, "this is what I get in return." Gasps spread through the audience. The tension was suffocating now. The woman in red finally stepped forward, her voice shaking. "Are you saying, the baby is?" "No," the man in black interrupted quickly, his tone firm. "Don't jump to conclusions." "Then say it," the tuxedoed man demanded, stepping closer, his jaw clenched. "Say whose child it is." For a moment, no one spoke. The pregnant woman looked between them, the man she once loved, and the man standing beside her now. Her heart pounded, not from fear, but from the weight of the truth she had carried alone for far too long. "I will," she said finally, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. "But not like this. Not in front of everyone." "Why not?" he challenged bitterly. "Afraid the truth will ruin your perfect image." Her expression hardened. "No," she replied. "Because the truth will ruin yours." A stunned silence followed. The man in the tuxedo froze, his anger faltering for the first time. The confidence in her voice wasn't defensive, it was certain. And that terrified him. Across the room, the music had stopped completely. Every guest was now watching, caught in the gravity of a story they didn't understand but couldn't look away from. The man in black gently squeezed her hand. "You don't have to do this here," he murmured. She nodded slightly, but her eyes remained locked on the man in front of her. "This night was never meant to be about us," she said. "But you forced it to be." He swallowed hard, his voice quieter now. "Then finish it." A pause. A breath. And then, "Fine," she said. But before she could speak again, a voice from the crowd suddenly called out. "Wait, there's something you all need to see." Every head turned. And just like that, the truth everyone feared was about to come to light. The hidden truth. The voice came from the back of the ballroom, calm, steady, yet impossible to ignore. Guests parted instinctively as a middle-aged man stepped forward, holding a small tablet in his hand. His expression was serious, almost reluctant, as if he knew the weight of what he was about to reveal. "I didn't plan to interrupt," he said, glancing around the room, "but this has gone too far." The man in the navy tuxedo frowned. "Who are you?" "My name is Daniel," he replied. "And I think, I have the proof everyone here is demanding." A wave of whispers spread through the crowd. The pregnant woman's breath caught slightly, her fingers tightening around the fabric of her dress. The man beside her looked alert now, his protective stance shifting into something more cautious. Proof of what? The woman in the red dress asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Daniel stepped closer, raising the tablet slightly. Proof of what really happened the night everything fell apart. The room seemed to shrink around them. The man in the tuxedo scoffed, though there was a flicker of unease in his eyes. This better not be some kind of joke. It's not, Daniel said firmly. In fact, it might be the only reason the truth hasn't come out until now. He tapped the screen, turning it so everyone, especially the four at the center, could see. It's security footage, he explained. From the night you left her. The pregnant woman closed her eyes for a brief moment, as if bracing herself. Play it, she said softly. The man in the tuxedo hesitated, but curiosity, and perhaps fear, kept him rooted in place. The video began. At first, it showed a familiar scene, a quiet hallway outside a private lounge. The timestamp marked it as months ago. The pregnant woman appeared on screen, pacing nervously, checking her phone repeatedly. She was waiting for you, Daniel said quietly. The man in the tuxedo clenched his jaw. I was there. I remember. Watch, Daniel urged. Moments later, the footage showed something unexpected. Another figure entered the hallway, a man the guests didn't recognize. He approached the woman, speaking urgently. Though there was no sound, his body language was intense, almost threatening. The pregnant woman on the video looked startled, then frightened. That's not, the tuxedoed man began, but his voice faltered. The footage continued. The unknown man grabbed her wrist. She tried to pull away. Panic was clear in her movements now. And then, the screen froze. A collective gasp filled the ballroom. What is this? The woman in red whispered, her hand covering her mouth. Daniel looked directly at the man in the tuxedo. You left before this happened, he said. You saw her talking to someone and assumed the worst. I thought, he stammered. You thought she betrayed you, Daniel finished. But you didn't stay long enough to see the truth. The pregnant woman's eyes glistened now, but her voice remained steady. I tried to tell you, she said. I called you that night, again and again. The man's face drained of color. But you didn't answer, she continued. Because you had already decided what you believed. Silence. Heavy. Crushing. Daniel resumed the video. This time, the man in the black suit appeared on screen, rushing into the hallway. He pulled the stranger away from her, stepping between them. A brief struggle followed before the unknown man fled. He helped me, she said, looking at the man beside her. He didn't even know me, but he stayed. The man in black said nothing, his gaze fixed ahead. The video ended. No one spoke. The elegant ballroom now felt like a courtroom, and the truth had just rewritten everything. The man in the tuxedo staggered back slightly, his mind racing, his earlier anger now replaced with something far more painful, realization. I didn't know, he whispered. No, she replied gently. You didn't try to know. The woman in red slowly loosened her grip on his arm, stepping away as if seeing him differently now. But, the baby, he said, his voice shaking. If that night wasn't what I thought, then whose? The question lingered, unfinished. The pregnant woman looked at him, her expression unreadable. That, she said quietly, is the part you were never meant to doubt. A chill passed through the room. Because suddenly, the biggest question of all, still remained unanswered. The truth that breaks and heals. The silence that followed her words was heavier than anything before it. Everyone in the ballroom held their breath, waiting. The man in the navy tuxedo looked as if the ground beneath him had vanished. His earlier anger had completely dissolved, replaced by something raw and unguarded. Fear. Say it, he whispered, his voice no longer demanding, but pleading. Please, just tell me the truth. The pregnant woman studied his face for a long moment. This was the man who once meant everything to her. The man who had promised forever, and then walked away when she needed him the most. You want the truth now? She asked quietly. He nodded, his eyes glistening. I should have wanted it then. I know that. But I'm asking now. A soft murmur passed through the guests. Even they could feel it, this wasn't just drama anymore. This was something deeper. Something real. The man in the black suit gently stepped back, giving her space. Not leaving her, but letting her stand on her own. She took a slow breath. The baby, she began, her hand instinctively resting on her stomach, is yours. The words echoed through the hall. For a second, no one reacted. Then, what? The man in the tuxedo gasped, his voice breaking. It's your child, she repeated, her voice steady, leaving no room for doubt. It always was. The woman in the red dress stepped back as if struck, her face pale. Then, everything, all this time. Yes, the pregnant woman said, glancing at her briefly. Everything you believed was wrong. The man in the tuxedo ran a hand through his hair, his breathing uneven. But I saw you, with him, that night. You saw a moment, she interrupted gently. Not the truth. His eyes filled with regret. And I let that moment destroy everything. Yes, she said. Not harshly. Just honestly. That hurt more than anything. I tried to reach you, she continued. I needed you. I was scared, alone, and carrying your child. But you had already decided I wasn't worth trusting. Each word landed like a quiet udar. The man's knees seemed to weaken slightly. I thought you betrayed me, he said. I thought I lost you. You didn't lose me, she replied. You let me go. The distinction cut deep. Tears now rolled freely down his face, no longer hidden by pride. I would have stayed, he said, his voice trembling. If I had known, I would have stayed for both of you. She looked at him, and for the first time, there was no anger in her eyes, only a quiet sadness. But you didn't, she said. Silence again. The man in the black suit finally spoke, his tone calm but firm. And when he didn't, I did. All eyes turned to him. I stayed when she had no one, he continued. I went with her to every appointment. I made sure she was safe. Not because I had to, but because someone should have. The man in the tuxedo looked at him, a mix of guilt and reluctant respect crossing his face. And you never. No, he said simply. Because this was never my place to take. The weight of that statement settled over the room. The woman in red, who had been silent for too long, finally spoke. Then what does this mean now? She asked softly, though her voice trembled. For all of you. No one answered immediately. Because there was no simple answer. The pregnant woman looked down for a moment, then back up again. It means the truth is finally out, she said. But truth doesn't erase the past. The man in the tuxedo nodded slowly, wiping his tears. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, he admitted. But I'm asking for a chance, to at least be there. For my child. Her expression softened, but only slightly. This isn't about what you deserve, she said. It's about what the child deserves. Hope flickered in his eyes. And what about you? He asked carefully. Is there any chance for us? That question lingered longer than any before it. The room felt frozen again. She looked at him, really looked at him. Then, slowly, I don't know, she said. Not rejection, but not forgiveness either. Just truth. And sometimes, truth is the hardest thing to accept. As the tension slowly began to ease, one thing became clear. The past had finally been revealed. But the future, that was still uncertain, and far more complicated. A future rewritten. The chandeliers still glowed, the guests still stood in place, but something had shifted. The tension that once filled the room had softened into something quieter, something more human. Not everything was fixed, but everything was finally real. The man in the navy tuxedo stood there, no longer proud, no longer angry, just a man facing the consequences of his own choices. Across from him, the woman in green held her ground, not as someone seeking validation, but as someone who had already survived without it. I don't expect things to go back to how they were, he said after a long pause. I know I broke that beyond repair. She nodded slightly. Some things can't be undone. But some things, he continued carefully, can still be built again, differently. His eyes moved to her stomach, then back to her face. There was no accusation in them anymore, only responsibility. I want to be there, he said. Not as someone trying to fix the past, but as someone ready to do better in the future. The room remained silent, but now it felt like everyone was witnessing something meaningful instead of scandalous. The man in the black suit stepped forward, his expression calm. Words are easy, he said. Being there, consistently, that's what matters. The man in the tuxedo met his gaze and nodded. You're right. And I don't blame you for stepping in when I failed. There was no hostility between them now, only understanding. The woman in red, who had quietly observed everything, finally took a step back. Her voice, when she spoke, was gentle but firm. I understand now. The man in the tuxedo looked at her, surprised. I never meant to hurt you. She gave a small, sad smile. You didn't mean to. But you were still holding onto something unfinished, and I was standing in the middle of it. He lowered his eyes, unable to argue. I deserve a love that isn't confused, she added softly. And you need to face the one you ran from. With that, she let go of his arm completely and walked away, not in anger, but with quiet dignity. Sometimes, letting go is its own kind of strength. The pregnant woman watched her leave, then turned back to the man in front of her. This won't be easy, she said. No, he replied. You don't just get to step back into my life. I'm not asking to, he said. I'm asking to earn my place, slowly. She studied him again, searching for doubt, for hesitation, but found neither. Only sincerity. And that was new. Then we start with the child, she said. Nothing more, nothing less. A small, hopeful breath escaped him. That's enough for me. The man in the black suit placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Whatever you decide, he said quietly, you won't be alone. She gave him a grateful look. I know. For the first time that night, a faint smile touched her lips. The music slowly began to return, soft at first, as if the room itself was learning how to breathe again. Conversations resumed, though quieter now, more thoughtful. The storm had passed, but it had left behind something important. Clarity. The man in the tuxedo took a step back, giving her space, not out of distance but out of respect. And in that moment, it was clear. Love isn't just about feeling. It's about trust. And trust, once broken, doesn't return with apologies, it returns with actions. As the night moved forward, no grand reunion took place. No dramatic embrace. No perfect ending. Instead, there was something more real. A beginning. Moral of the story. Never let assumptions speak louder than truth. A single moment of doubt can destroy what years of love built, but patience, honesty, and responsibility can slowly rebuild what was lost. True love isn't proven in perfect moments, but in the courage to stay, to listen, and to trust when it matters most.